How's it going, guys? This is Jack here with the Commanders Wire. Welcome back to another video. I'm filming this video right after the Commanders' second preseason game against the Detroit Lions. Pretty interesting game. There's a lot of positives. There's also a lot of negatives. We're going to really get into it today in today's video. But before we get into that, I really would appreciate it if you guys would go down below, drop a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications to know when I post next, and you guys will be notified whenever I post another Commanders video just like this. So without further ado, let's get right into today's video. So, of course, Commanders played the Lions at 12 p.m. today on, August 22nd, 2026. That is today's date. Week 2 of the preseason, and I guess we'll just get right into it. My overall takeaway, the Washington's defense was, I guess, the biggest part of today's game. I guess I could put it. The Commanders created turnovers, they generated consistent pressure, and they showed encouraging depth despite several defensive starters being out. The offense was much less impressive and struggled to consistently finish drives, unfortunately. Jaden Daniels only played in one series, 3 total plays, and so there was really no way to evaluate him. It was unfortunate. It was an awful drive. So Jaden Daniels played just one offensive series. He went 3 and out. He got sacked during the possession. He was pulled after that, and Sam Hartman was entering on the next series. There really wasn't enough action to draw any meaningful conclusions about Daniels or the starting offense. But Washington is also missing important offensive linemen, including Laramie Tunsil and Nick Allegretti. So that means Brandon Coleman was at left tackle, Chris Paul was at left guard, and Julian Good-Jones was the starting center with the starting offense. The defense started fast though. Washington opened the game with back-to-back takeaways. Amik Robertson pressured Josh Dobbs, forcing a fumble. He came on a blitz, absolutely rocked him. It was insane. One of the very first plays, I want to say the second play of the game, and forced a fumble. Joshua Josephs recovered the fumble in the end zone for a defensive touchdown. On Detroit's next possession, Quan Martin intercepted Dobbs, and that was Washington's first 2 defensive series, resulted in 2 takeaways, 1 defensive touchdown, and 0 points allowed. Quan Martin recorded an interception for the second consecutive preseason game. He also intercepted a pass against Miami last week. He continues to strengthen his case in the competition for the starting safety job next to Nick Cross, and his ability to actually create turnovers in the game situations is becoming difficult to ignore, and it's really reminding me of his, the way he played in the 2024 season, where he was also creating a lot of takeaways. Joshua Josephs continued his strong training camp and preseason. He recovered the opening fumble for a touchdown and has received increased opportunities because of the injuries along Washington's defensive front. He continues to make a legitimate case for a spot on the defensive rotation. The pass rush recorded 4 sacks in the first half, which is great. Javonte Jean-Baptiste generated a sack. Maurice Hurst also recorded a sack. Tyler Owens created pressure downhill. There was a big hit stick he had on one of the Lions running backs and was able to create pressure. That was an insane play. You can definitely tell Tyler Owens is a guy to be really disruptive. Even if he's just on special teams, he's going to be good. Washington also consistently disguised pressure and attacked Detroit from different areas of the defense, really seeing some of that Brian Flores-esque type of defense from Durante Jones. It is really cool to watch how they're able to disguise different things. On one of the sacks, I even saw they had 8 guys on the line of scrimmage, 8 players right there, right in front of the offensive line, and Joshua Dobbs had no clue what was coming. And I think that was one of, I want to say that was the Quan Martin interception, where they had 8 guys on the offensive line, right up there on the line of scrimmage. I want to say like 3 of them dropped back, the rest of them rushed, and Joshua Dobbs threw an absolute meatball sub right in the middle of the field for Quan Martin to take it away. So that was really cool to see. The performance was especially encouraging considering several defensive linemen and edge rushers were unavailable. Defensive players who did not play included Odafe Owe, K'Lavon Chaisson, Dorrance Armstrong, Deron Payne, Johnny Newton, Tim Settle, Dietrich Wise, and Trey Amos. Despite those absences, Washington still created significant pressure. The biggest defensive negatives: Detroit's quarterback Josh Dobbs broke free on a read option play for a 50-yard rushing touchdown. Washington lost contain on the quarterback. It was a reminder that the aggressive defense can still give up explosive plays when assignments are missed, and that type of mistake needs to be cleaned up before the regular season. But you also have to keep in mind that those were some of our second and third stringers. So I think when we get some of our stars in there, some of those mistakes may be cleaned up a little bit. The backup quarterback competition, with Marcus Mariota out because of his MCL sprain, Sam Hartman and Ethan Kaliakmanis received most of the quarterback work. Washington continued rotating the 2 quarterbacks. Kaliakmanis once again showed a strong arm, good pocket movement. He looks so calm and collected in the pocket. It is crazy, even with all the pressure coming, and a willingness to throw from structure, which is always good to see. And he helped lead an 11-play drive that ended with a field goal, and based on the first 2 preseason games, Kaliakmanis appears to have the momentum to be in the quarterback 3 competition. And if it were up to me, I would give Calic Manis the quarterback 3 job immediately. Sam Hartman is at this spot after 3 seasons, and Calic Manis is already giving him a run for his money just in the preseason of his rookie year. So I think it's awesome. Talk about more on the offensive side. Jaden Bradley. Oh my gosh, this guy is so good. He made one of Washington's best offensive plays yet of the preseason. He hauled in an impressive one-handed catch throughout contact. It was DPI. His left hand was literally being held by whatever the Detroit Lions corner was. I forget who it was. And he jumped up, made a one-handed catch. It was insane. Hauled it in, brought it, tucked it in his chest, and rolled. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And as a receiver fighting for one of the final roster spots, those are exactly the types of plays that can make a difference when it comes to choosing one player over another, and he continues to make himself noticeable in a crowded receiver room. Drew Stevens continued to strengthen his hold on the kicker job. Obviously, Jake Moody was already cut, but Drew Stevens made a 27-yard field goal. He made another field goal from 32 yards, and Washington recently released Jake Moody. I just mentioned that, effectively giving Stevens the job. Nothing spectacular was required, but he simply made the kicks he was expected to make, even when Jake Bates, I believe, missed his very first field goal kick. So it's always good to make your kicks rather than not make your kicks. Some offensive concerns. Washington struggled to consistently score touchdowns. We did have a couple kicks. I just mentioned that, but we did not get into the end zone very much. The starting offense went 3 and out. The backup units moved the ball at times, but repeatedly stalled and definitely got into 3rd and long situations. The Commanders had to settle for field goals on some of the drives, and their early touchdown came from the defense rather than the offense. The offensive line also allowed pressure, including the sack of Jaden Daniels. Important offensive context. Washington was not playing with its complete offense. Several significant players were unavailable or barely played, including Laramie Tunsil, Nick Allegretti, Marcus Mariota, Rashad White, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and several other starters and rotational players. Excuse me. And because of that, the offense definitely struggled and shouldn't automatically be viewed as a representative of what the regular season offense will look like. So the biggest positives I took away from this game, the defensive pressure and creativity definitely showed out, even with some, not like third stringers, but guys lower down on the depth chart, guys probably going to make the practice squad or maybe even be cut. They were definitely getting into the backfield, definitely creating positive, movements on the defensive line and just around the ball entirety. They had 2 immediate takeaways on the field. Quan Martin continued to make plays. Joshua Josephs continuing his breakout preseason. The defensive depth performing despite major absences. Drew Stevens remaining reliable. Ethan Calic Manis continuing to develop, and finally Jaden Bradley making another roster push play. I will also put in there Nick Nash had an insane 60-yard bomb on the sideline. I don't know. He basically beat his guy on the outside, and Ethan Calic Manis dropped an absolute nuke right to Nick Nash for whatever 50-yard go ball. It was insane. Another good play to see out there from some guys lower down on the depth chart. The biggest negatives: very little offensive production. Starting offense went 3 and out. Offensive line allowed pressure on Jaden Daniels. That will not be the last thing I talk about with this offensive line. The Dobbs 50-yard rushing touchdown was also a negative, obviously. Backup quarterback competition still not completely settled. I believe it is, but there's still another preseason game to go. Not enough touchdowns when Washington moved into scoring position. And also, I also want to put out Robert Henry Jr. Also, he fumbled. It was we had 2 minutes left. We were down by 4 points, and we just got the kickoff return and about to be on our 25-yard line to start hopefully what was the game-winning drive, and Robert Henry Jr. got the ball punched out, Detroit ball, ran the ball a couple times, clock ran out. That's the game. Unfortunate, but that's just how it is. Thankfully, it's just a preseason game. So the bottom line: biggest takeaway is that Washington's defense continues to look significantly more aggressive and disruptive compared to last season. Commanders are creating pressure without relying on one player. The defense is also generating turnovers, which has now carried over from training camp into preseason games. Quan Martin and Joshua Josephs continued to be 2 of the biggest preseason risers. The offense still has considerably more to prove. Daniels' extremely limited playing time means we still haven't really seen the complete first-team offense in a game setting. And finally, Washington should feel encouraged by its defensive depth, but offensive execution and finishing drives remain areas to watch heading into their final preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens next week. I also want to add, earlier in the game, Terry McLaurin was pulled and he was brought into the blue tent. Everyone was not going crazy, but why is he doing that? What happened? Nothing happened on the field. Why is he in the blue tent? Turns out he was just using the bathroom in the blue tent, which is funny to see. Everyone got very, very disturbed about, why is Terry McLaurin potentially injured, but he was just using the bathroom. guess you got to go and you got to go. Am I right? But regardless, everything looks fine. No one, I don't think anyone got injured for the Commanders. I don't, not that I saw. I watched, I don't know, maybe 90% of the game, in and out, going to the bathroom and other things. But I think overall, besides the negatives already stated, it was a pretty decent game, back and forth. I think a lot of players showed out some of their talents, some of their hard work that they've been putting on in the offseason. I think a lot of these guys are definitely making great pushes to make the 53-man roster, and that's going to bring me into my final topic. Not necessarily the offensive line, but looked awful. We could not move the ball at all on the ground. We could do it a lot last week. Last week is great. The Miami Dolphins suck. Detroit Lions were a completely different team, definitely a much better team overall. And we could not push the ball on the ground. The center position and the left tackle position especially, I don't think it's Brandon Coleman's fault, but having a backup center, I guess, not because even Nick Allegretti's not the greatest center in the world, but we have the backup of Nick Allegretti, Julian Good-Jones, and he didn't look good at all. Like, he's just not a starting level center. I hate to say it, but he just isn't. And then we have Chris Paul, who is, I think fine, especially if you have Laramie Tunsil there. Whoever's at left guard, you're gonna get a little boost in what you can do just because you have an anchor man there on the left tackle. But having Chris Paul and Brandon Coleman there, it's just like it's not a very strong side there. I look at it kind of like a Madden, like Madden ratings. Obviously, that's not gospel, but that's kind of just how I visualize it. And that whole left side, from not even the left side, that 60% of the offensive line, those three guys in the middle and the left, it's just liabilities. That's Jaden Daniels' blind side. We need to make sure that those guys are anchors there. I think Brandon Coleman definitely can develop even more, but him paired up with Chris Paul, I just don't think it's good. Plus, not having a decent center is really just making this even worse. So the reason I bring this up, if this was Madden, I told you, I know it's not Madden. Nothing is Madden. It's a lot more complex than it really is. But if I was a general manager, if I was Adam Peters, and this was like Madden 27, just came out, I just bought it, I love playing it. That's besides the point. I'm calling Taylor Decker right now. I'm giving you $15 million 1 year. Sign with me. Play left tackle. And then I'm also calling other former Detroit Lion offensive lineman Graham Glasnow. I'll give you, let's see, $6 million for 1 year. Play center for me. Those two guys, and then Chris Paul and who's the other guy? Chris Paul and Brandon Coleman. Oh my gosh. You two are going to be competing for the left guard spot. Taylor Decker will be at left tackle, and we will have Graham Glasnow be at center. That is an offensive line that I will be here for. That is immediately what I'm doing. I know it's a lot. It's more complex than that. They have to come to a new team, learn the playbook. You only have a couple more weeks until the regular season, but it's better to do it now than later. Like, you might as well just do it. We have the cap space for it. I would rather see that and just, have good players struggle maybe for a week or two than see current players just be bad because they're just not starting level players, right? I think at least bringing in some other competition there, some guys that have been with David Blau, who know that type of offense, and that are proven stars in the NFL. It would just be an overall positive experience for the entire offensive line to get some better names in there. Like I said, this is not Madden. I'm treating it like Madden kind of, and it's not, but that is exactly what I would do if I was Adam Peters. So with that being said, this is the end of today's video. I really would appreciate it if you guys would go down below, drop a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications when I post next, and let me know if you guys think this is a good idea or not. Should the Commanders sign Taylor Decker and Graham Glasnow to be starting left tackle and center for the Washington Commanders offensive unit? I think they should. I think it is a no-brainer. They already know the offense. They have to ramp up a little bit, but we have another preseason week plus another bye week before week 1, so better to do it now rather than later. I would do it in a heartbeat. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless, and hail to the Washington Commanders.